Hi everyone, this is Ronnie. I wrote some emails recently that I'm putting out to the newsletter I do, email newsletter for the Fruit Festival. Um, all the people that have been interested in the Fruit Festival in the past. The Fruit Festival is not, we're not accepting registrations right now. Don't really know what's happening with that. What was I going to say? Yeah, so that newsletter, I think I'm going to call it the Love Fruit newsletter. Anyway, I've been writing emails, and I wrote a series about organic food, or the concept of organic, and some people have sort of criticised me for not really taking organic all that seriously. And at the UK Fruit Fest, a couple of times I've had sort of problems with people um, not being happy that there's not a standard of everything being organic, and particularly Americans, but not just Americans, but particularly Americans seem to be very dogmatic about organic and the whole organic thing. So it's obviously reached America a lot stronger. Uh, so I guess I want to talk to you. I've probably made videos about this before. My issue with, my main issue with the whole organic food concept. The first thing is that a lot of the ways that it's promoted actually casts a bad light on fruit and vegetables, particularly on fruit, on produce in general. The dirty dozen list, the idea that the soil is depleted, the idea that farmers are harming the environment. This is how this concept has been promoted for years. Um, and organizations have built up around, like these causes have built up around this cause, these movements have built up around this cause. And it's now a big business, and it's kind of gone beyond that. I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase. I heard it a couple of weeks ago. Every great cause starts as a movement, turns into a business, and degenerates into a racket, which was really mind blowing to me when I thought about that. And this was the whole idea of organic food is a great cause. It's a great idea, that we should try and grow our food in a way that doesn't affect the environment and doesn't harm animals and doesn't harm insects, and that we don't have to use anything toxic. Okay, so that's a good concept, and we are able to generate a lot of interest in it because people seem to have a natural fear or concern around the quality of their food. And human beings, I read this in the 80-10-10 diet book, which I do recommend. You should go and get that if you've not read it. Where Doug Graham says human beings are fastidious when it comes to food, because he was talking about the idea that some people think that we're root eaters, so that we should eat potatoes and root vegetables, but root vegetables have to be dug up from the ground. They're covered in dirt, and humans don't like that. We don't like food that's dirty. We clean our food. We pick things off it. We check it. That's how we eat. We're the slightest hair in food puts us off, which is a really big mark against the idea of us being omnivores, because we can barely even handle a hair on our food. So it seems to suggest that we're quite sensitive to that, and maybe that's a suggestion that from our evolution that we had to avoid, that we were not very well adapted, I suppose, to deal with parasites and different things that might be on food or in food. So we became very conscious about it, and fastidious is a nice word. So that kind of fear, that instinct that people have, drives people to be very interested in this concept of organic, and it makes total sense. And the other thing, it's like the appeal to nature fallacy. That's not natural. Man-made chemicals, that's bad. We should be doing something natural. That'd be better. You know, people find that very appealing. I'm sure a lot of you, some of you are really strong for organic, and some of you maybe have it as a standard, and I have not really any problem with that. But the way the organic thing has actually cast a bad light on fruits and vegetables, because it makes people think that fruit's grown in a bad way, that it's not healthy anymore, it's not as healthy as it used to be, it's not as good for you, it doesn't taste as good, and it makes people skeptical about eating fruit. And I've seen this before with my own two eyes, where I've offered fruit to people and they've asked me if it was organic. And if it wasn't organic, they were a little bit unsure about eating it. Now, at the same exact time, those exact same people were not asking that question about other foods, or at the restaurant they went to, or with different junk foods they were eating. They weren't concerned about that. But this promotion of this idea that it's bad to have food that has pesticides on it has led to this problem of people having some kind of a fear towards it. Now, it's not that big a problem. I think it's probably not really holding a lot of people back, but it concerns me that it might be stopping people from eating more fruit than they could do, or than they would if they felt it was completely healthy for them. And the sad thing about fruit is that there's not really a lot of advertising or education getting out there to tell people the opposite story. We never really see advertising about fruit anymore. In where I'm at in Scotland, if I watch a television, which I don't do that often, but if the television's on, radio, internet, Google, whatever, there's never adverts about fruit. There's never adverts about fruit. It's a different business model to other foods, so it's a different thing, and they don't really have advertising for it. And it's probably haven't had a lot of advertising for fruit going back decades and decades. Sometimes when a country is trying to put its fruit into a new market, there might be advertising, like French apples, New Zealand apples, or whatever. You might get something like that, but even then, not really. I've seen that on YouTube, but I've not really seen that on television or Facebook advertising, Instagram, like any kind of advertising. There's a small amount of money that's like general, like promoting eating healthy, but it's absolutely dwarfed by the massive amounts of money that corporations have to promote McDonald's, KFC, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and all that stuff. So unfortunately, it's like there's more bad news getting out about fruit than good news, and that is one of the reasons that I don't really support the whole organic industry. But the second reason, the other biggest reasons, is that I don't support organic really, is that organic is not what people think it is. Because the vast majority of people, if they eat organic, or they're interested in organic, or they have a positive feeling about organic, and you ask them why, they say because they don't want to have food that has pesticides on it, and they don't want their food to be sprayed with pesticides. That's what people say. That's what people think organic is. And if you've watched my channel and my videos before, you know that that's not what organic means. And the organic industry is absolutely happy with people believing that organic food means it's not been sprayed. But it's not true. It's not true anywhere in the world where there's an organic standard. It does not say no pesticides. It does not say no toxic pesticides, no fertilizers, no herbicides, no fungicides. It doesn't say anything like that. If organic meant that, I could totally see where people were coming from. Organic doesn't mean that. So the Soil Association in the UK that regulates organic has a list of pesticides that they allow farmers to use that are organic, which means they are not synthesized or man-made. And that's really all it means, but they are unnatural, they are processed. Because you don't just find pesticides in nature. Okay? So organic food is sprayed, and there are farmers that have organic fields and they have conventional fields and they just spray them with different pesticides. There's no difference. Now you might say, well, the organic pesticides are less toxic. That's not true. They're not. They're better for the environment. That's not true. They're less harmful to the workers. I don't think that's true either. None of it's true. Now, may it be the case that some organic farms don't use pesticide? Yes, but at a certain level it almost becomes impossible. With the way that we produce food is completely unnatural. You don't have food in nature that's a field of, one tree. That doesn't happen. And when you do that, diseases can spread really quickly through these trees, and pests spread really quickly. You don't get that, and that's why people talk about permaculture as being a way of reducing the use of pesticides. It's true, but it's not possible to do that to feed billions of people. If you want to have your own permaculture farm and things like that, then that's different. Then that's a great thing. If you want to do that, if you've got the land and the time and everything to create that lifestyle, that's great. But permaculture isn't really a solution to the food supply unless everyone chooses to do it for themselves. And that's going to be quite difficult to get everyone who's got land to do that. And a lot of people don't have land. So I don't think it's possible to do permaculture at that kind of scale unless you forced that was the only way of doing it or something, because another farm that didn't do permaculture would be able to produce more with less space and all that kind of stuff, and would ultimately win. So and regardless of that, a lot of the supposedly organic techniques don't really work. Some of the permaculture ideas don't work. Oh well, we just need to put in stronger plants around them and stuff. A lot of that stuff doesn't work. So we like to believe in this idea that we can just do things in a nicer way. But in doing that, we're sort of falling into this delusion that we know more than farmers, that there's got to be a better way, that the other ways haven't been tried. The farmers don't want to spend money on pesticide and stuff like that. If they didn't have to, they wouldn't do it. They don't want to spend extra money. But they also don't want to lose their entire crop. So organic is not what you think it means. Organic farms are still potentially sprayed. Conventional farms, and this is the thing, you never know. The conventional produce you're buying might not have been sprayed. The organic might have been sprayed. And that's what's messed up about the whole thing. The standard is not sprayed and not sprayed. And that's what people actually want the standard to be. Sprayed, not sprayed. That doesn't happen. So organic doesn't mean what you probably thought it meant. The organic pesticides are not better for the environment. They're not less harmful. In fact, some of them are less effective, so they get sprayed more. That's a problem. Also, organic farms use, instead of fertilizers, they'll use things like manure from animals, which means they're benefiting the animal industry, but also means they can be more likely, or likely at least, for pathogens to spread from manure to the food you're eating, like salmonella and stuff like that, E. coli. So that's a bit of a problem. And so organic certainly doesn't mean vegan. So that's another sort of an issue with organic. Now, the other things you might say is, well, organic tastes better. In blind taste tests, that's never been found. Organic's more nutritious. Once again, that's not been shown. That's not been proven. So what exactly is the benefit of organic to you? What exactly is the benefit? Very little, actually, especially due to the fact that you're paying more money for it. Now, the agreement, if you look at the Soil Association principles, the farmers who are organic, of course, they're meant to go by these principles of being less harmful, better for the environment, you know, more caring, and all this stuff. But who's to say that other farmers aren't adhering to those principles as well? You just don't know. And so that's the one thing. But now you might say at this point, well, what do I eat if everything's probably, a lot of things have got pesticide on it? The truth is, for a start, there's not a lot of pesticide residue on these foods. And the first thing to remember is fruits and vegetables have the least. That dirty dozen list should say that. Remember, fruits and vegetables have the least amount of pesticides. Why is there not a dirty dozen list for meat? A dirty dozen list for dairy? Why don't they produce that? Kind of weird, isn't it? It's almost like people don't want to hear dirty dozen list for fast food chains. They don't publish that. It's almost like people don't want to hear that, so they don't so it doesn't spread in the media. But people like to hear bad things about fruit and vegetables for some reason, or they're happy for them to be attacked. So that was the thing. So that's a part of it. But fruits and vegetables have the least pesticides. You really should not worry about it either way, and you're much more at risk from developing diseases or problems and symptoms as a result of not eating enough fruits and vegetables than you are at the risk of getting some kind of disease from pesticides from fruits and vegetables. That's not going to happen. The benefit far outweighs any potential risk by a massive, massive way. Now, the other thing is that other foods are higher in fruits and vegetables, the highest being animal products, higher in pesticides, sorry. Animal products have the highest because they eat these foods that have been sprayed, and the pesticide is called bioaccumulation. It accumulates in their fat. Okay, so if you want to reduce pesticide consumption, you need to reduce your animal product consumption. Now, what if a person decides, well, what I'll do then is I'll eat organic animal products instead of cutting out animal products? Well, you're still gonna. That doesn't stop you from getting the diseases associated with animal products: high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and all these things connected with animal products. The organic component isn't really the issue. Now, there might be a few conditions. I've heard Dr. McDougall say he reckons Parkinson's is to do with pesticide consumption through animal products. I think there might be something else. Maybe I think there might be something else. There are neurological conditions that might be to do with that. But once again, that's to do with the consumption of the high amount of pesticides that are contained in animal products. The bioaccumulate in animal products. Now, to get things in perspective a little bit, how much pesticide residue is actually remaining? Because people have this idea that it's just liberally sprayed all over the place, and then they get thrown in the supermarket. It's not how it works. This is a controlled, regulated behaviour, controlled, regulated thing that happens in farming. They're not allowed to spray it and then put it in the shops. It's sprayed, and then there has to be an amount of time before it gets picked. So there has to be a delay before it's picked again, before people can eat it. So there's things like that happen. But there's also, what people don't realise is that it might have just been the flour that was sprayed to stop the flour from being consumed. And when the fruit started to grow, there was no need to spray it anymore. So the amount of spray used is probably not as much as people think in general. And the harm that it's causing from Remember this: every single study that's shown positive benefits of eating fruits and vegetables for preventing, reversing, helping people's health. Remember, every single one of those studies has been done with conventionally grown fruit and conventionally grown vegetables. All the benefits that have ever been shown with fruit, conventionally grown fruits. So I'm not really saying to you don't go organic. If you look into it yourself and you feel you like that standard, you like what they're doing, maybe speak to some organic farmers. They might tell you, actually, not quite like that, and they never use pesticide and stuff like that. They can use it, but they never use it. Maybe someone will say that. But when we're talking about the big industry, and you just go into shopping malls, and in America it's really widespread, where you go into some places and it's hard to get anything but organic. And the prices are really high. That's what I don't like about it either. It's an artificially raised price. It's a premium that's been added. It's a way of increasing the price. If you just look at it from a business perspective, it's just a way of increasing the price. That's if you look at it with your business hat on, some people were around the table and said, how do we increase prices of fruit? How do we put our prices up? And they came up with this idea, organic. That's most likely what happened. Not they came up with the idea, but they saw other people doing it. They saw this thing growing and they thought, well, if we latch onto that, we can increase our price because we'll tell people that our food's healthier. And it ain't. It really isn't. This is not going to stop a lot of you being very dogmatic about this. I understand that. But when we create this extra barrier to people eating healthy, that's an insurmountable barrier because it's almost impossible for a person to truly eat organic all the time. I think it's not a good thing to promote. So I don't promote organic. I don't suggest that you focus on organic. I don't think it will improve your health to eat organic. I don't think there's any risk of conventional fruit and vegetables, and I think you should choose your fruits and vegetables based on what looks good, what appeals to you, what's in season, and so on. And I'm willing to continue to research this and figure out more about it and speak to more farmers. But when you speak to farmers and people in the industry more, so many of them think it's a con. The whole thing's a con. And that no one knows the truth of the reality of it. And one of the guys that I've met that works in the fruit industry, I was talking to him about this and he said, there's no way you can produce fruit. And he picked up, like, peaches or something. He said, look, there's no blemish on this. There's nothing's pecked at it, nothing's eaten it, nothing's like made a little hole in it. There's no anything in it. There's no way you can produce fruit like this and it's organic and it's not been sprayed. No way. Now, I don't know if that's exactly true, but that's his opinion. Someone else I knew, it was a farmer, said to me, you can't grow a field full of fruit trees without pesticide. Like, it's just impossible. Like, once it gets to a certain size, you have to spray with something. That was his opinion. Because you get pests. I mean, we're trying to not starve here. We're trying to not have our food eaten by other things. So if the choice is famine or controlled pesticide usage, then it's obvious which one is better. Anyway, I just want you to not have fear around this subject. Look into it yourself if you want a little bit more. Be aware of some of the incorrect information that gets spread. Remember that organic doesn't mean no pesticide. Maybe we need another standard. Conventional organic and no pesticide. No sprayed. Maybe that's what we need. There's more to this. There's a little bit more to this, but don't do this thing of focusing your health on organic. It's not going to get you there. Focus on fruits and vegetables. That's what will improve your health. Anyway, thank you for watching. Feel free to check out some links down below. You can join the newsletter. you can buy my book slash program thing, and you can look at some coaching information as well. So thank you very much for watching. Feel free to share it or comment. Hope this meant something to some people. And if you've got any questions or anything you want me to answer in another video, once again, leave a comment below. I do enjoy getting comments now and again, and I think I reply to most of them, so thank you very much.